ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you something fundamental about human interactions. People don't inherently respect what is laid bare before them. It's not because they're malicious or cruel. It's simply because humans are wired to focus on what is scarce, valuable, or shrouded in a bit of mystery. If you tell everyone what you do, down to the last detail, you risk trivializing your own efforts. Now, this isn't about being deceptive or secretive. It's about ensuring that your work, your skills, your expertise, those things that you've dedicated your life to, aren't tossed into the cacophony of everyday noise. If people don't have to work to understand or appreciate what you do, they likely won't. Instead of talking endlessly about your plans, let your competence speak. Think about it. Have you ever been around someone who constantly tells you how great they are, what they're working on, or what they're planning to achieve? What happens? You become skeptical. You start noticing gaps between their words and their actions. But if they stay focused, work diligently, and let their results do the talking, you can't help but respect them. Here's another point. Words are vulnerable. Once spoken, they're out there, free to be misinterpreted, criticized, or even weaponized against you. When you share your work prematurely, especially with people who may not understand or support your vision, you risk sabotaging your own momentum, not because they're smarter than you, but because your energy is diverted into defending or justifying instead of creating and executing. You've also got to remember that attention is a limited resource. Every moment you spend explaining what you're doing is a moment you could spend refining it. Silence, in this sense, isn't just golden, it's productive, it's efficient, and it maintains the momentum you need to bring your ideas into reality. People have a curious relationship with what they perceive as mysterious. We're drawn to the unknown, to the unexplained, because it challenges us, provokes curiosity, and engages the deeper parts of our psyche. When something is fully revealed, however, the dynamic changes. It's no longer a mystery, it's just another known quantity, another item on the shelf. This principle applies as much to people as it does to objects or ideas. If you tell everyone exactly what you do in every intricate detail, you lose that element of intrigue that compels others to respect you on a deeper, almost instinctive level. When you explain yourself fully, what you do, how you do it, and why, you inadvertently make your work seem ordinary even when it's anything but. It's not because the work is inherently less valuable, but because the effort and complexity behind it become less visible. You see, people often don't have the context or the technical knowledge to grasp the nuances of what you do. And when they don't understand something, they fill in the gaps with their own assumptions, which are usually reductive and more often than not dismissive. The result is that the significance of your work, your expertise, and even your character can be diminished in their eyes, not because they're malicious, but because humans are wired to undervalue what they think they already know. There's an old saying, familiarity breeds contempt. This doesn't mean that people consciously dislike what they understand. It means they're less likely to regard it as special. Think about relationships. The initial excitement in a new friendship or romance often comes from the thrill of discovery. You don't know everything about the other person, and that makes them fascinating. But when every detail of someone's life is laid bare, the enchantment fades. The same principle applies to professional and intellectual respect. If you remove the mystery surrounding your work, you risk turning it into something mundane in the eyes of others. This is not to say that you should hide what you do or be deliberately evasive. That's not the point. The point is to be selective and intentional about what you share, when you share it, and with whom. There's a difference between being accessible and being overexposed. The latter happens when you give away too much, too soon, to too many people. When you do that, you're essentially inviting others to form opinions about your work, opinions that may not be informed, fair, or even relevant. And here's where the issue gets even more complicated. The more you explain yourself, the more opportunities you give others to poke holes in what you're doing. Not everyone is rooting for your success. Some people are indifferent, some are competitive, and some are outright envious. When you lay your work bare for all to see, you expose it to criticism, misunderstanding, and in some cases, sabotage. You might think that being transparent earns trust or admiration, but in reality, it often invites scrutiny. And scrutiny, when it comes from the wrong sources, can be draining and counterproductive. Moreover, there's a psychological aspect to consider here. When people have to work to understand you or your work, they're more likely to value it. It's the effort they invest that creates a sense of respect. This is why some of the most respected individuals in history have been those who maintained a certain air of mystery about them. They didn't give away all their secrets. They allowed their actions, their results, to do the talking. And because people had to dig deeper to understand their achievements, they appreciated them more. Take this a step further. Think about how competence is perceived. If you constantly tell people what you're doing, it can come across as seeking validation, even if that's not your intention. It might make people wonder if you're compensating for a lack of substance. On the other hand, if you remain focused, quietly working behind the scenes, and let your results speak for themselves, people can't help but be impressed. They see the finished product, the evidence of your skills, without the noise of explanation. This approach not only builds respect, but also reinforces your credibility. There's also a practical reason to avoid oversharing: energy. Every time you explain yourself, you're expending energy, mental energy, emotional energy, even creative energy. Talking about what you do might feel good in the moment. It can be affirming, but it doesn't move you closer to your goals. In fact, it can sometimes rob you of the momentum needed to execute your plans effectively. So, silence in this context is not just a strategic choice. It's a way to preserve your focus and energy for what truly matters, the work itself. Finally, let's consider the broader implications of maintaining some level of mystery. It's not just about what others think of you, it's also about how you think of yourself. When you don't feel the need to explain everything, you're affirming your own competence and self-sufficiency. You're saying, in essence, I trust myself and my process enough to let my actions speak for themselves. That kind of quiet confidence is powerful. It not only shapes how others perceive you, but also reinforces your own sense of purpose and direction. Competence speaks louder than words. And this principle is one of the most reliable truths when it comes to earning respect and trust. It's tempting to talk about what you're doing, to explain your ideas and intentions in great detail, especially when you're proud of your work or excited about its potential. However, the value of your efforts doesn't lie in how much you can explain them. It lies in the results they produce. The world doesn't reward intentions nearly as much as it rewards outcomes. This is why focusing on your competence, your ability to deliver tangible, meaningful results, is far more effective than seeking attention or validation through words. Think about this. How many times have you heard someone boast about what they're going to accomplish, only to see them fall short? Their words, instead of building credibility, end up highlighting the gap between their ambitions and their abilities. The problem isn't that they lacked good ideas or intentions, it's that they spent more energy talking about what they would do than actually doing it. This creates a disconnect, a sense of overpromising and underdelivering, which ultimately undermines their reputation. Now, consider the opposite scenario. Imagine someone who rarely talks about what they're working on, but consistently delivers impressive results. Their actions speak for themselves, and as a result, they build a reputation for reliability, competence, and focus. People naturally gravitate towards such individuals, not because they're flashy or self-promotional, but because they demonstrate time and again that they can be counted on to produce real, measurable outcomes. Their work becomes their calling card, a testament to their discipline and skill, and it earns them a level of respect that words alone could never achieve. Focusing on competence rather than attention also has a deeper psychological dimension. When you're consumed with explaining yourself or seeking validation, you become overly reliant on external opinions. This dependence can distract you from the actual work, making you more reactive to others' perceptions than proactive about your goals. Worse, it can create a cycle where you feel compelled to keep talking about your plans to maintain interest or approval, even as the substance of your work takes a back seat. This is a dangerous trap. one that can lead to frustration, self-doubt, and a loss of momentum. On the other hand, when you prioritize competence, you take control of your narrative. You shift the focus away from what people think and toward what you can achieve. This shift is empowering because it centers your energy on the things that truly matter: your skills, your discipline, your ability to overcome challenges and deliver results. It's a mindset that fosters resilience, determination, and self-reliance. You're no longer working to impress others. You're working to improve yourself and create something meaningful. It's important to recognize that people are naturally drawn to those who excel at what they do. Competence is magnetic. It commands attention not through noise, but through quiet, undeniable proof. When you consistently demonstrate your ability to solve problems, create value, or achieve excellence, you build trust. People come to see you as dependable, as someone who doesn't just talk, but delivers. This trust is invaluable. It opens doors, creates opportunities, and establishes a foundation for meaningful relationships, both personal and professional. Now, let's address a common concern. Some might argue that in today's world where social media and personal branding dominate, it's necessary to talk about yourself to get noticed. There's some truth to this, but it's crucial to understand the difference between sharing your achievements strategically and seeking attention indiscriminately. The former is about showcasing your competence in a way that aligns with your goals and values, while the latter is about chasing validation for its own sake. The key is to let your work take center stage, with your words serving as a supportive framework, not the main attraction. This distinction is particularly relevant in professional settings. Employers, clients, and colleagues are less interested in what you say you can do and more interested in what you've actually done. A portfolio of accomplishments, a track record of success. These speak volumes compared to even the most eloquent self-promotion. And the beauty of competence is that it creates a ripple effect. Each success builds on the one before it, amplifying your credibility and influence over time. Focusing on competence also protects you from the pitfalls of overexposure. When you talk too much about what you're doing, you invite scrutiny, skepticism, and even criticism. People start to analyze your words, looking for inconsistencies or weaknesses, and this can create unnecessary pressure and distraction. By keeping the focus on your work rather than your words, you avoid this kind of scrutiny. You maintain control over your narrative, presenting only what is necessary and allowing the quality of your efforts to shine through. Furthermore, competence fosters humility. When you dedicate yourself to your craft, to mastering your skills and achieving excellence, you become acutely aware of how much there is to learn and improve. This awareness keeps you grounded, reminding you that there's always more work to be done, always another level to strive for. It's a mindset that not only drives personal growth, but also earns the respect of others, who see in you a commitment to continuous improvement rather than a need for constant attention. And now that we've gone through the history, ultimately the choice between competence and attention is a choice between substance and superficiality. One builds a solid foundation for long-term success, while the other offers fleeting moments of recognition that rarely translate into meaningful impact. By focusing on competence, you align yourself with the principles of discipline, integrity, and resilience. You create a legacy of excellence that speaks louder than any words ever could. And in the process, you earn not just attention, but the kind of respect that endures. So, let your work be the proof of your worth. Let your actions define your character. And remember that true value isn't proclaimed, it's demonstrated. When you focus on competence, you don't need to tell people what you can do. They'll see it for themselves. And that's the most powerful statement you can make. When you share too much about your plans or what you're doing, you inadvertently open yourself to unnecessary vulnerability. It's a truth many people overlook. Not everyone has your best interests at heart, and not everyone will respond to your openness in ways that are supportive or constructive. By disclosing your work, your strategies, or even your dreams too freely, you risk exposing yourself to critique, misunderstanding, and in some cases, outright sabotage. This vulnerability isn't just about external factors. It also has a profound psychological impact on your ability to focus and execute effectively. Think about this. The moment you tell someone your plans, you invite their opinions. While some feedback might be helpful, much of it can be irrelevant, overly critical, or even rooted in envy. People often judge ideas prematurely without understanding the nuances behind them or the larger vision you're working toward. This judgment can shake your confidence, even if it's baseless. From mainstream social consciousness that our country needs more than ever right now, and from mainstream social conflict, suddenly you find yourself questioning your path, not because you've discovered legitimate flaws, but because someone else's doubts or negativity have been planted in your mind. This dynamic is particularly dangerous when you're in the early stages of a project or idea. In those moments, your plans are fragile. They need nurturing, focus, and space to develop. Sharing them too soon is like exposing a sapling to a harsh wind. It risks stunting its growth or uprooting it entirely. Premature disclosure forces you to defend or justify your ideas before they're fully formed, which can drain your energy and divert your attention away from the work itself. Instead of building momentum, you're stuck in a loop of explanation and validation seeking, which ultimately slows you down. There's another layer to this. Not everyone who hears about your plans will be supportive. Some people might feel threatened by your ambition or ideas. Others might see an opportunity to exploit your openness for their own gain. This isn't to say that everyone is malicious or that you should distrust people by default, but it's a reminder that not all environments or conversations are safe spaces for your aspirations. By sharing too much, you give others a chance to undermine you, whether intentionally or inadvertently. They might point out obstacles that discourage you, reveal your ideas to others who could act on them faster, or simply fail to offer the encouragement you need. Even when the intentions of others are neutral or positive, their input can still have unintended consequences. When you're working on something meaningful, you often carry a unique vision of what it can become. This vision is deeply personal, shaped by your experiences, values, and aspirations. When others offer feedback, they're interpreting your vision through their own lens, which can distort it. They might focus on aspects that aren't important to you or suggest changes that take your work in a direction you never intended. While these suggestions might seem helpful, they can dilute the authenticity of your efforts and pull you away from your original purpose. The vulnerability of over-disclosure doesn't just apply to external relationships. It also affects your internal state. When you talk too much about what you're doing, you create a false sense of accomplishment. Verbalizing your plans can trick your brain into feeling like you've already made progress, even when no tangible work has been done. This phenomenon, often called social reality, can rob you of the drive and urgency needed to turn your plans into reality. The more you talk, the less you do, and the more you risk getting stuck in a cycle of inaction. To mitigate this vulnerability, it's essential to practice discernment in what you share and with whom. Not every idea needs to be public, and not every person needs to know the details of your work. Strategic silence is not about secrecy or distrust. It's about creating a protective boundary around your efforts, allowing them to grow and flourish without unnecessary interference. It's about choosing the right time, the right people, and the right context for sharing, ensuring that your disclosure serves a purpose rather than exposing you to unnecessary risks. This approach also empowers you to take control of your narrative. When you share sparingly and intentionally, you dictate the terms of the conversation. You present your work on your own timeline in a way that highlights its value and integrity. This not only protects you from premature judgment, but also ensures that others see your efforts in the best possible light. By the time you reveal what you've been working on, it's no longer just an idea, it's a fully realized accomplishment, one that speaks for itself and commands respect. Another benefit of limiting disclosure is that it helps you conserve energy. Talking about your plans can be emotionally draining, especially when you encounter skepticism or negativity. By keeping your work private, you preserve that energy for what truly matters, the execution. Silence creates a space where you can focus, free from the distractions of external opinions and expectations. It allows you to channel your resources into doing the work rather than defending it. This discipline of silence also builds resilience. When you rely less on external validation and more on your own judgment and dedication, you develop a stronger sense of self-reliance. You become less swayed by the opinions of others and more confident in your ability to navigate challenges. This resilience is a crucial asset, one that enables you to stay focused and committed even when the road gets tough. Ultimately, the principle of avoiding unnecessary vulnerability is about protecting your capacity to create and achieve. It's about recognizing that not every idea needs to be shared, not every plan needs to be explained, and not every person needs to know what you're doing. By maintaining this boundary, you safeguard your work, your energy, and your confidence. You give yourself the freedom to pursue your goals without distraction, the space to refine your ideas without interference, and the strength to stay true to your vision. In doing so, you not only protect yourself, but also set the stage for greater success and fulfillment. Talking less about your work and focusing more on doing it isn't just a matter of protecting your ideas or avoiding unnecessary scrutiny. It's also about preserving your energy and directing it toward what truly matters. Energy is a finite resource. Every moment you spend explaining yourself, justifying your plans, or seeking validation is a moment taken away from the work itself. By choosing silence over excessive discussion, you create space for focus, productivity, and meaningful progress. This is not just a practical strategy. It's a mental discipline that strengthens your ability to prioritize, sustain momentum, and achieve lasting results. When you talk about what you're doing, it might feel satisfying in the moment. Sharing your plans with others can create a temporary sense of accomplishment, as if articulating your intentions brings you closer to realizing them. But this feeling is often an illusion. Talking about work is not the same as doing it. In fact, the more you verbalize your ideas, the more you risk dissipating the energy and excitement that should be fueling your actions. Words can create a false sense of progress, tricking your brain into believing that you've already achieved something simply because you've described it. This phenomenon, sometimes referred to as social reality, can undermine your drive. When you share your plans, you receive feedback, whether it's praise, criticism, or indifference. While positive feedback might feel encouraging, it can also reduce your sense of urgency. The acknowledgement from others can act as a premature reward, satisfying your need for recognition without requiring the effort of actual accomplishment. Conversely, negative feedback or skepticism can sap your motivation, leaving you second-guessing your decisions and doubting your abilities. Both outcomes create unnecessary emotional turbulence that distracts from the work itself. There's also the cognitive toll to consider. Every conversation about your work requires mental energy. You have to frame your ideas, articulate your thoughts, and respond to questions or reactions. This mental effort might seem minor, but over time, it adds up. It takes away from the focus and clarity you need to solve problems, make decisions, and execute your plans. By limiting how much you talk about your work, you conserve this energy for the tasks that truly require it, the creative, analytical, and practical work that moves your goals forward. Silence, in this sense, is not about withholding for its own sake. It's about creating a mental space where you can engage deeply with your work. When you're not preoccupied with explaining or defending your ideas, you can think more clearly and act more decisively. You're free to experiment, iterate, and refine without the distraction of external input or the pressure of others' expectations. This freedom is crucial for innovation and problem solving, as it allows you to approach your work with focus and curiosity rather than anxiety or defensiveness. Moreover, silence helps you cultivate a sense of intrinsic motivation. When you're not relying on external validation to sustain your efforts, you're forced to look inward. You develop a stronger connection to your own values, goals, and reasons for doing the work. This intrinsic motivation is more sustainable and resilient than any external reward because it's rooted in your personal sense of purpose and meaning. It keeps you going even when the work is challenging, unrecognized, or slow to bear fruit. Preserving your energy by talking less also strengthens your ability to manage setbacks. Every creative or professional endeavor comes with obstacles, failures, and moments of doubt. When you're focused and intentional, you're better equipped to navigate these challenges. You have the mental and emotional reserves to regroup, adapt, and keep going. On the other hand, if you've already expended your energy on talking, explaining, and justifying, you're more likely to feel overwhelmed or discouraged when difficulties arise. Silence becomes a form of self-preservation, a way of maintaining the stamina needed for long-term success. There's also a practical aspect to consider. When you focus on doing rather than talking, you develop a habit of consistent action. This habit reinforces your discipline and builds momentum. Momentum, in turn, creates a positive feedback loop. The more you accomplish, the more motivated you feel to keep going, and the less you feel the need to talk about your plans. Your results speak for themselves, eliminating the need for excessive explanation. This cycle of action and accomplishment becomes a powerful engine for growth and achievement. In professional and creative environments, this focus on action is particularly valuable. People respect those who deliver results, not those who talk about what they're going to do. By prioritizing doing over talking, you position yourself as someone who is reliable, effective, and focused. You build a reputation for competence and integrity, qualities that open doors and create opportunities. This reputation is far more valuable than any temporary recognition you might gain from talking about your plans. Finally, it's important to recognize that silence is not a sign of weakness or evasiveness. It's a deliberate choice, a way of asserting control over your time, energy, and priorities. It's a statement that your work matters more than the noise surrounding it, that your actions are more meaningful than your words. This mindset not only enhances your productivity, but also reinforces your confidence and self-discipline. You're not working to impress others. You're working to fulfill your own potential and create something of lasting value. In summary, by talking less and doing more, you preserve your energy for what truly matters. You avoid the distractions of external validation, protect your focus from unnecessary interference, and cultivate the discipline needed for sustained effort. This approach allows you to stay aligned with your goals, build momentum, and achieve meaningful results. Silence, in this context, is not just a strategy, it's a form of strength. It's a way of committing fully to your work, ensuring that your energy is directed toward what truly matters, and that your accomplishments speak for themselves. When you allow your work to unfold in silence, you gain the invaluable advantage of maintaining control over your process. This control is not just about safeguarding your plans from external interference. It's about fostering an environment where you can experiment, adapt, and grow without the weight of premature expectations or scrutiny. Silence grants you the freedom to work on your own terms, at your own pace, and in alignment with your own values. It's a strategic choice that maximizes your ability to produce meaningful results while minimizing distractions and unnecessary stress. One of the most significant benefits of maintaining silence is that it protects your autonomy. When you openly share your plans or ideas too early, you risk inviting external influence, whether in the form of unsolicited advice, criticism, or even subtle pressure to conform to others' expectations. This influence can unintentionally steer you away from your original vision, forcing you to accommodate perspectives that may not align with your goals. While feedback is valuable at the right time and from the right sources, premature input can dilute the authenticity of your work and hinder your creative freedom. Control over your process also means you have the space to refine your ideas without the burden of outside judgment. Every creative or professional endeavor involves a period of uncertainty and experimentation. It's during this time that mistakes are made, adjustments are necessary, and breakthroughs occur. If you're constantly explaining your work to others, you may feel compelled to defend your choices or justify your progress. even when it's still in flux. This pressure can stifle innovation and make you overly cautious, as you become more focused on avoiding criticism than on exploring possibilities. Silence, on the other hand, allows you to embrace the iterative nature of your work. You can test ideas, take risks, and pivot as needed, without fear of public failure or misunderstanding. This freedom is particularly important in the early stages of a project, when the path forward may be unclear and the outcomes are uncertain. By keeping your process private, you create a safe space where you can learn and grow without external distractions. You're able to focus on what truly matters, the quality of your work and its alignment with your goals. Another advantage of maintaining control through silence is that it helps you manage your own expectations. When you share your plans prematurely, you set a narrative in motion, not just for others, but also for yourself. You may feel a subconscious pressure to stick to what you've shared, even if circumstances change or new information emerges. This rigidity can limit your ability to adapt and make decisions that are in your best interest. By staying silent, you retain the flexibility to adjust your course as needed, without the fear of appearing inconsistent or indecisive. Silence also enhances your ability to prioritize effectively. When you're not preoccupied with explaining your work or seeking validation, you can dedicate more time and energy to what matters most: execution. You're less likely to get caught up in unnecessary conversations or distractions, allowing you to focus on the tasks that drive real progress. This focus not only improves your productivity, but also helps you build momentum as each accomplishment fuels the next. Over time, this momentum becomes a powerful force, propelling you toward your goals with clarity and determination. Maintaining silence about your work can also protect you from the pitfalls of overcommitment. When you share your plans too widely, you may feel obligated to follow through on every idea or promise, even if it no longer serves your goals. This can lead to unnecessary stress, wasted effort, and a sense of being overwhelmed. By keeping your process private, you give yourself the freedom to assess and adjust your commitments without external pressure. You're able to focus on what's truly important, letting go of what no longer aligns with your priorities. Another crucial aspect of controlling your process through silence is that it allows you to build credibility naturally. When you talk less and do more, your results speak for themselves. You're not relying on words to convey your abilities, you're demonstrating them through action. This approach builds trust and respect, as people come to see you as someone who delivers on their promises and produces meaningful work. It's a form of influence that's far more powerful and enduring than any amount of self-promotion. Silence also fosters resilience by reducing your exposure to unnecessary negativity. Sharing your work prematurely opens the door to criticism, skepticism, and even outright dismissal. While some of this feedback may be constructive, much of it is likely to be uninformed or irrelevant. By keeping your process private, you shield yourself from these distractions, allowing you to maintain your confidence and focus. You're less likely to be derailed by doubts or second guessing, enabling you to stay committed to your vision, even in the face of challenges. Furthermore, controlling your process through silence creates a sense of anticipation. When you finally reveal your work, it's complete, polished, and ready to make an impact. This element of surprise can be incredibly powerful, as it captures attention and generates interest. People are naturally drawn to results, especially when they're unexpected or exceed expectations. By withholding details until the right moment, you create a sense of intrigue that amplifies the impact of your accomplishments. Ultimately, the choice to remain silent about your process is an act of discipline and self-respect. It's a way of honoring your work and protecting the environment in which it can thrive. Silence is not about secrecy or isolation. It's about creating the conditions for success by maintaining control over what you share, when you share it, and with whom. It's a deliberate strategy that empowers you to focus on what truly matters, stay aligned with your goals, and deliver results that speak for themselves. By embracing silence, you reclaim your process as your own, ensuring that your energy, creativity, and vision are fully directed toward achieving your greatest potential. In conclusion, the practice of staying silent about your work is not about secrecy, distrust, or withholding for the sake of it. Rather, it's a profound strategy rooted in focus, resilience, and intentionality. By choosing to limit what you share and with whom, you protect your ideas from premature scrutiny, maintain your energy for execution, and preserve the integrity of your creative process. Silence creates a space for reflection, experimentation, and growth, allowing you to navigate challenges with clarity and adapt to change without the weight of external expectations. And one of the main points of this book, this discipline enables you to shift your energy from seeking validation to delivering results, from explaining your potential to demonstrating it. When you act instead of talk, you build credibility naturally, gaining respect not for what you promise, but for what you accomplish. By controlling your narrative and focusing on execution, you align your actions with your goals, ensuring that your work speaks for itself when it matters most. Ultimately, silence is not a sign of passivity or avoidance. It's a deliberate choice to prioritize doing over talking, substance over noise, and long-term success over fleeting recognition. It empowers you to stay true to your vision, guard your energy, and channel your efforts into creating something meaningful and lasting. In a world that often rewards superficiality and noise, the quiet strength of purposeful action will set you apart, allowing your achievements to resonate far louder than words ever could.